Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Town of Delafield Board of Supervisors meeting, public hearing for the Town of Delafield's budget for the 2021 and special town meeting. I believe Dan is going to do a presentation.
Sure. Yeah, I just wanted to give a brief overview of the budget for 2021. It's 2020 budget to be collected in 21. So just wanted to take you through a few high-level things. Just wanted to show the distribution of the tax rate based on the school averages along with county taxes. It shows the town's portion in there as well as WCTC. It showed one with, if you are on sewer, one without sewer. Wanted to go over the mill rates. Just a quick update of 2021's mill rate is going to be $1.31 based on a debt service rate of 0.2 and operating rate of $1.11. These are mill rates, so they're per $1,000 in assessed value. Based on the 2020 rates of $1.28, you can see the debt service there is a slight change of 3 cents per thousand. That really is due to 2 debt service payments that weren't budgeted for in this year's budget that should have been. So technically, if we would have taken those into account, that 2020 mill rate would have actually been $1.31, and we would have had a 0% across the board. So just a chart of total taxes based on assessed value. Based on a $250,000 to $1 million home, you can see the cost per year of the town's portion broken out monthly, and you can see with that 3 cent mill rate adjustment, the increase from 2020 to 2021's budget comes out to about $15 for a $500,000 home assessed value. And then just a breakdown of expenditures by departments here at the town. Public Works, which also includes your garbage, road repair, and then the highway department is about 54% of the expenditures of the budget. Public safety, which includes the fire, police, lake patrol, makes up a quarter of the budget. General government's at 14%. That's anything related to town hall expenses, assessor, the clerk's office, the attorney fees, any sort of administrative fees. That's 14%. Park and Rec taking up 3%, and then conservation and development, that's planning commission type of engineering costs, things like that. So, and then just a breakdown of those expenses from 2020 to 2021's budget. You can see the percent change there as well. The bottom line is we're lower in expenditures this year over last year by about 0.36%. So. That's just a general overview of the budget. Otherwise, if there's any questions, the public hearing's open for any public comment. So,
If anybody would like to address the board, they're free to come to the podium. I think I'd like to make a comment. The town board attempted to do a levy increase. So we were required by statute to actually create 2 budgets back in August and September and October. We created one with the optimistic view that the levy increase would be approved, and we created one with the apparently more realistic view that the levy increase would be rejected. You're looking at the budget today with the levy increase being rejected. So we took out. The levy increase included such things as $115,000 for additional public safety for increased sheriff patrol. That did not get approved. We took that out. It included items of $85,000 for administrative costs, which would go across all departments. We took that out. We're not able to take out the highway funds. We are so far behind in our highway maintenance. We had $250,000 budgeted and the levy increase for increased highway maintenance and road repair. We have to do that. So we've converted that 250 from a levy increase to debt. And now we will borrow that $250,000, but we have to maintain our roads. We're way behind in our maintenance of our roads. And I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
May I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
What do you think about the next time you put out a referendum, how you can get it to pass? It seems like there wasn't a whole lot of information to try and convince people that this was, particularly our roads, were really a necessary item that needed more funding. And I don't know if that was what caused the referendums to fail, but do you have a plan for the next time we need to do that?
Well, we're still, and I'll take responsibility for it, we're still licking our wounds. We were restricted, okay, the feedback that I believe Dan's received and the board through Dan is that the wording of the levy referendum was confusing. And some people thought it was going to be a $450,000 increase every year going forward. That's obviously not what it was going to be, but the wording was somewhat confusing. We are restricted by state statute to the exact wording we had to use in the referendum. We don't have the freedom to just say whatever we want to say. It has to be, it's very tightly regulated. So that's one issue we just don't have any control over. The marketing, what I'll call the marketing of the referendum, I'll take the responsibility. It was mediocre at best. We attempted to market it. We were handicapped, and these are not excuses. These
Yeah,
are
don't
just,
take all the blame. I think, I mean, we were handicapped with the advice that we received from our legal team saying that,
Exactly.
we couldn't advocate. I mean, we did the best that we could. I mean, I think you ask, how can we pass this in the future and get the word out that it's about roads and it was about public safety? We really needed the citizens groups to be able to, talk to their neighbors and, help spread the word. I mean, the COVID situation doesn't help either, where we can't knock on doors and talk to our neighbors as much as we would like to. So really, we were struck by state statute on how to, how the wording was and just how to, we did our best on social media to get stuff out, but.
yeah, one element of the marketing plan that we had all agreed on is that we would go to homeowners association meetings, which actually meet in this room, and all through the month of September and October. And we would actually have a presentation and explain it to the homeowners associations. COVID resulted in no homeowners association meetings. We had it published in the paper twice. When we do in the next referendum, it'll hopefully be in a post-COVID world. While we're restricted with the wording, we will have more. We'll have more ability to market it. Is the best I can answer you, Dick. So.
Mr. Kia's got a question.
I can't remember in it, how much would it have been for, say, a $500,000 house? And are you able to put that information out there?
We did have that out
We
there.
did have it out there.
How much was that, Dan?
It was
I'll pull it up real quick.
It was on our website for months.
25 cents.
It wasn't,
It wasn't, it was like 25 cents on it. It wasn't large at all for mill rate, I think.
It really missed because of the, and I'm not casting blame, you can go on the website and see exactly which wards voted for it, against it. So,
It's still on our website as it stands. It would have been for a $500,000 house, $11.66 per month cost. Per month, yeah. And the confusing language on the referendum, from what I've heard from residents, is it made it seem like we were going to ask for 450 and then another 450 and then keep repeating that. It was a one-time, it wasn't just for 1 year, but it was a one-time increase to study like this. It wasn't a step-by-step 450,000 increase, which I think confused a lot of people. And to Dick's point too, yes, it is a struggle to get the word out in a town such as this, where we don't have a downtown. We have newspapers, we have the website and that sort of thing, so a lot of it has to be word of mouth. We're limited in the funds that we as a town can spend, meaning we can't spend money to advertise for this. So like Ed said, we rely on groups, advocacy groups to get the word out, which with COVID, it was hard to meet with those people or even to form groups. And then we passed the resolution in late August. So to get time, you know, to get everything moving in 3 months is a tall order. So positive is we did get 40% yeses out of the town. So I think that's something to build on if we bring it forward again. So.
Thank you.
Claire?
Yeah.
Having spent 16 years at that table and having faced referenda before, the wording restrictions are not new. However, you know, COVID came in, yes, we had other problems coming in. However, there's the U.S. Postal Service. We don't need to market things, we need to get information out. It's called education.
Well, I don't disagree with that. Our attorney, Eric Larson, was very firm in the town is a municipality, and none of the town officials, as officials, are able to advocate for a position. So we can educate,
Yes.
but we cannot advocate. And it's,
Education is the key.
well, it's a very fine line. I had a whole 3-page educational format, and Eric did not like it at all. So it was far too much advocating. So, but I agree with you, Claire. I agree with you. Any other comments? With that done, I'll adjourn, call for adjournment of the public hearing and the town board meeting. We don't need a motion for that, do we?
I would make the motion.
Okay.
Do you need a motion?
Motion to close the public hearing and the town board meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion to close the public hearing and the town board meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Call to order the special town meeting of electors pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 65.90 sub 3. And I'll call for an approval of the minutes of the November 13th, 2019 special town meeting. This is last year's meeting of this nature.
I'll move to approve the minutes as presented for November 13, 2019.
Actually, anybody from the audience can.
Yeah.
we're over.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It'd be nice if somebody from the audience would move to approve the minutes.
I'll approve the minute.
Thank you, Karen.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the minutes of the November 13th, 2019 special town meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a second for Mr. Nowacki. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Now we'll go to item number 5, discussion and necessary action to authorize the town board to dispose of town-owned real estate pursuant to section 60.10 sub 2 sub G of the Wisconsin statutes, more specifically, the land located at Delt 0773.980. You want to give a quick overview?
Tim, I don't know if you want to jump in on this one since you.
Can you put it up?
Help fill in too if you need help.
Yeah. This is a piece of property that's on Hillcrest Drive. It is adjacent to a project that we did, it's been probably 5 years ago or so, where we replaced a culvert and then we built a retaining wall associated with that. And then as part of that, there was some land adjacent to that 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 was part of the project, but it was owned by the Waukesha County. I think it was tax delinquent. And so then they ended up giving it to the town. So it's a small parcel that's basically along Hillcrest, but it's adjacent to the Kita property, which is a private owner. And we don't use the land for anything. It's just there. We don't have any use for it.
Okay.
We'll see if it gets up.
It's a little triangle next to somebody's driveway, right? Yeah. Any discussion?
No, I mean, this makes sense. I mean,
That
when we
makes total
approved the
sense.
project,
Yeah.
the intent was to sell it back to the property owner once it was.
That was the intent back in
So-
2015 or 16 when we did it. So I'll take a motion for item number 5.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
can I
ma'am.
just interject? You might want to remind the folks here in the audience that they are part of this meeting.
Oh, I thought that was, okay, yes, this is the electors. This is the electors' meeting. Thank you, Claire. This is where the residents and the citizens of the town of Delafield come in, and it's really your meeting. So we encourage to have motions and comments and discussion from the residents in the audience. Because we're basically, this is selling your land. It's not our land, it's the town's land.
So that's why we need approval of the electors to be
Yeah.
able to dispose of the property.
Yeah. It would make little sense for the town to maintain ownership of this land.
Do we have an owner for, or a buyer for it?
We do.
It's,
The residents are here to,
yeah,
And the use will be what?
I don't,
it's,
I don't think it'll
it's a
change.
ditch, it's just a ravine, it's so that they can have access to Hillcrest. Technically, they don't have access to Hillcrest right now.
Thank you.
You can speak,
So, just a little history on that. When we purchased the property several years ago, a neighbor discovered that not only that parcel, which is adjacent to our property, but I believe it was a whole triangle that extended across a couple other lots. And so when one of the neighbors contacted Waukesha County, they purchased that odd little, the front side of that triangle from Waukesha County. And we were in the process, we talked to Waukesha County about taking care of it for our parcel, and that's right when the road washed out and the culvert had to go in and everything else. And so Waukesha County indicated to us it would be simpler if they transferred the land to the town of Delafield so that they would have access to it for the necessary construction of the culvert and road repair and everything else, as opposed to transferring it to us, and then we would have to take care of it through the town of Delafield. And it was just an easier step to get the road fixed at that time. And that's why I had talked to Mr. Barbeau about it several years ago, and this is just how it, the time of it, it just played out. And so now the road's fixed, the culvert's in, everything's good. And what it is, it's a ravine. It's just a great big deep ditch. So it's not, it's not like you could do anything with it. It's just a deep ditch, which is why they had to put a big guardrail along the edge of the road and all that sort of thing. So it doesn't really have a value to anyone. And in fact, Waukesha County at the time had said they would never, the only thing that would do with it would be sell it to us. So then the town, with the road repair kind of was interjected in that, and we're just kind of closing the loop.
Any other comments? Anybody willing to make a motion?
I'll move that we authorize the town board to dispose of town real estate pursuant to section 6.10, parent 2, parent G of the state statutes. Land located at Del 0773.98.
Okay, thank you, Claire.
Second that.
I have a motion and a second, and again, the audience can vote as well. So, all those in favor of the motion to sell this piece of property, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Let the record show there's no opposed, no opposition. Thank you. And we'll move on to item 6, adoption of the 2020 town tax levy to be paid in 2021 pursuant to Wisconsin statute section 60, sub 10, sub I, sub 1, sub A. That's the budget we just discussed. Again, it's your budget.
I so move, we approve the adoption of the town tax levy as presented this evening.
And I second it.
All right, I have a motion and a second to adopt the budget as presented for the tax levy to be paid in 2021. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Let the record show there is no opposition. With that, I'd accept a motion for adjournment, and I'd like to thank everybody for coming out.
I so move, we adjourn this meeting.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you all. I really appreciate you coming out. Stay healthy. All right, we have a new budget. We'll give it a second to possibly clear out.
Is it cold in here, or is it just me?
A little chilly.
Is it cold in here?
Yeah. It's about to get hot.
Exactly.
Sorry I never got back to you. I had a crazy day. Had a bit of a car problem in Appleton.
I heard that, and I'm sorry to hear that.
Already got the thin blood
I
going.
haven't had that happen for a
You're in
while.
my car.
Well, you lose a tire doing 82 miles an hour, and it has
Not
a
good.
tendency to get your
Right.
attention.
That's true. That is true. We're spoiled over here, I guess.
Dan, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. Everyone, I'd like to call to order the Town of Delafield Board of Supervisors meeting for Tuesday, November 18th, 2020. If you'd all rise and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Dan, thank you for moving it back over here.
Yeah, it was.
I know, it was.
I got
really
so confused.
It was very confusing. Citizen comments. This is the time where citizens are invited to speak on items not on the agenda. You'll have the opportunity when we call an agenda item to speak as well, but this is specifically for items not on the agenda. Is there anyone who would like to address the board? Yeah, up here,
Yep.
sir. And if you'd give your, Pete, if you'd give your name and, yeah.
Pete Ogden, Town of Delafield, Happy Hollow Road. My comment is more just what I heard happened at this Thursday meeting last week in terms of the Thomas land, and that has to do with density. Does anybody have any knowledge of that on the town board?
I believe I have very loose knowledge from a letter or memo that was emailed that was sent out by Jim Frett.
Right,
And
that's exactly the knowledge I have.
I haven't seen the email.
Okay,
I haven't read it.
great.
Now, we are going to discuss Town Board and Plan Commission, the mixed-use ordinance general update, but that's not specifically the Thomas Farm. But yeah, I have not seen the email or read it, but I hear there is one out there.
Okay, so
I
I
would
mean,
assume you
I've read,
received it.
I've read what you've read. I was not able to make that meeting on Thursday. But I want you to know that density is, we're not all in agreement on density. The way I understand what that memo said is they want to raise the density even higher to what was discussed at the previous 5 meetings. And I just want to make sure your eyes are open, you're knowledgeable as to what's being done, but that type of density is way, way, way too much for this town.
Well,
I just wanna make
Maybe
sure.
I don't understand. And again, I'm not part of those meetings, but it was my understanding that, and Dan, you correct me, because I believe he knows, the density for multifamily was somewhat agreed to at 6 units per acre. And the question and issue here is the density at senior living. And I thought the agreement was 12.
Again, I just know what I read, Mr. Troy, and all I can tell you is I was at those previous meetings up until Thursday, and 12 units was never discussed, okay? So that, I just want to make sure,
I'm not privy to any
all
of it.
I'm trying to do is make
That's
sure your eyes are open to the density.
Yeah.
And just, it's too much for this town, period. I mean, that's my feeling. It's in your hands, and, I hope to God these people out here will speak their onions, because it's something, once you make a decision, it's gonna be something we all have to live with in this town.
May I just ask who is they, when you say that they are recommending a higher density? Is that the county? Who exactly is that?
My understanding was at this meeting, which I think is the 6th meeting that we've had as a group.
It is?
Rob is here tonight. He can give you some feedback if you'd like it, but if he's willing to. But they are the people in this committee. So I don't know if it was the Thomas family. I don't know if it was the attorneys. I don't know if it was the people that were volunteering their time on the committee. But all I'm here to say is that I unfortunately was not able to be there. And what I read is in the same memo that Mr. Troy read, and that is the density went up. And I think it's too much.
Okay. Pete, I appreciate Mr. Ogden, I appreciate your comments. We're gonna have ample opportunity. in
I know we are. Yep,
Numerous meetings to discuss the entire Thomas Farm development.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
You bet,
Thank you,
sir.
Mr. Ogden.
Thank you.
I'll have Jason contact you too about some of the materials from that meeting and maybe give you some information on what was specifically discussed.
And just one brief clarification, I did not read the letter. I did not receive the email. I have not read it. I've only heard about it, similar to you. Or you've read it, actually. Anybody else have a comment on an item that is not on the agenda?
Well, I was just gonna add a couple more pieces of information if you wanted, but
Why don't we do it at the Thomas Farm hearings? Yeah. Not hearings, meetings. Okay. Approval, the November 11th, 2020 town board minutes.
Move to approve?
Is there an amendment? I don't know if there's a...
Yeah.
We have a bit of an amendment, if that's right.
Is it big enough to put in the
No,
motion?
it just needs we need to add it, let's see, E is F, and E should be regarding Supervisor Cooley's resignation. That was left out. The motion is in there, and the other thing that's left out is the motion for the Grota appraisals.
Oh,
Oh,
The motion
yeah.
for Supervisor Cooley's resignation is under the Grota
okay.
appraisals.
So they're
we just
clerical
need-
issues.
Right.
Yeah.
So
So we
make your
just need
motion
to
subject
add
to
a couple,
corrections.
yes. So with
Yeah,
that
with
amendment,
corrections, yeah.
to add the motion for the Grota appraisals, and E should be about the resignation of Supervisor Cooley, and then F is CenturyLink.
We'll accept that as the motion.
Correct.
Okay.
Billy can second it.
Second.
So, all those in favor of approving the amended minutes of the November 11th, 2020 board meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Action on budget items. There are no sub-accounts or actions to amend the 2020 budget. So we'll go into accounts payable and payroll as vouchers submitted for payment.
Move to approve payment in checks number 64160 through 64182 in the amount of $42,929.72.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion for approval passes unanimously. Communications. Well, this is a sad time because, as everybody knows, Supervisor Van Horn had passed away on Saturday evening. And, I mean, I consider the whole town in mourning at the passing of Pete Van Horn. He was an incredible force in the community for years and years, served with Claire, and had a very, very positive impact on the community. And his wisdom and counsel are going to be severely missed as we go through some issues in the future. And we are flying the town flag at the fire department and at the highway department at half staff for a week in honor of, in memory of Pete Van Horn.
Mr. Chairman, can I just add something? I found Pete's obituary online this morning, Journal Sentinel, and he was elected in 2000, not 1995.
I didn't give him any information, so
I don't know who gave the information.
no idea.
Just as a clarification.
Yeah. I said, I believe I was quoted as saying he was with the town for 20 years or possibly a little more, so. Okay, we'll move on to the.
No, he was a force, you know, he served for 20 years. He definitely left his mark on, you know, the community and the larger community and his trips to Haiti, and it's really weird without him here this evening, so, you know, I mean.
Very protective of Pewaukee Lake.
Yes, so, hopefully in the future we'll do something to honor him and memorialize him a little bit more, but he definitely, you know, you either agreed with Pete or didn't agree with Pete, but Pete was always very, you know, solid, and, you know, I used to give him a ride to the meetings a lot of the nights, you know, the last couple of years, and, he always had a smile on his face, and he always asked me how my family was doing, and, you know, I miss that tonight, so.
Yep.
Okay. Item 6B, mixed-use ordinance, general update, discussion only. I think Mr. Ocken brought us up. There was a meeting last Thursday. You want to address anything?
We discussed architecture of buildings. We did discuss some senior living density architecture, those types of things. I think Jason will probably send out an update as far as how the meeting went to all the members, and then move forward with getting neighborhood meetings together to kind of display what we have, what the group has come up with. I heard tonight some concerns with density, which we can bring up with Jason. I think minus that step or that the senior living, I think it's going in a good direction. So we just need to kind of get everybody back on board and on a good note. But other than that, I think everyone was in good spirits about where we were moving as far as the architecture and some of the multifamily pieces of this. So it's a process, and not everybody's going to get along or agree to everything, but we certainly want to make sure that for the most part there's a general consensus. So we'll get updates at the next board meeting. So
Any questions? Ms. Duncan?
Has the issue of the deer population over there been addressed? Because at any given time, I live near the area. Any given time, I can drive down Elmhurst Road toward Oakton and see 30 to 40 to 50 head in that field alone.
well, the property is private property, so it would need the permission of the landowner in order to do so.
Once construction's, once it starts becoming developed, that herd is going to be displaced. And where is that going to go? I know the residents have issues now with the deer population.
I don't have an answer.
150 acres that are open.
Sure. I don't have an answer at this point. I'm sure, you know, as the things progress, maybe the DNR would have to step in, as they already have with our deer management program, to figure out how the natural habitat will be affected. But to this point, we're just talking about preliminary zoning ordinance, but getting put into
Yeah.
our code, so.
Mr. Frett,
Yeah, just, thanks. I just wanted to add a couple of points. You guys had a couple questions.
you really probably should come up, Jim, and just for the record.
Jim Frett, N19, W29056, Gulf Ridge North. Thanks, and very sorry about Mr. Van Horn. Just a couple other things from the meeting on Thursday. The increase that was brought to this meeting was around senior living, and they did a good analysis, the county, and I think with some pushing from the lawyer on the property owner side. But when they looked at all the senior living around, they're all around 12 units per acre density, so 12 to higher, and the decision was made with some opposition, including myself, to move from 4 to 6 to 12. What that does, just to give a little flavor, so, you know, this is a give and take, obviously. We fought off light industrial and warehousing and those kind of things, which is great. It's mostly residential is the current draft plan, but we're still looking at everything surrounding the area is roughly a unit per acre. I mean, the builders in the area say nobody wants big lots like that anymore, understand that piece. Where we're at right now is about 400 units with the density that's proposed, and they did a nice job splitting out the parcel of land to make more sense from how it impacts the residents, like along Elmhurst, and, you know, move the higher density in the center piece of that land along Gulf Road. But with all that, we're over 400 units. With this new proposal, we're going to be close to 600 units in that piece of land. That's pretty high density. And even the give and take, like the single family home areas, we're talking about basically city lots. So this is a balance, obviously. You know, the county wants more tax revenue, the landowners want more money, the residents want less. We're trying to come to some middle ground here, but that's just a little more background on what transpired on Thursday is mostly around senior living, but when you look at the property in totality, there's a lot of potential units there when you look at it that way. So thanks for letting me speak a little bit just to get a little more detail, and thanks, Dan.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we'll move on to item 6C, Town Board and Plan Commission procedures. I put this on the agenda, just a little background. I was unaware of the fact that residents typically don't have the right to comment on agenda items as the Plan Commission meetings and the Town Board meetings go through. So we corrected that for the Town Board meeting, but last week we had a Plan Commission meeting, and I was told that when I suggested people speak, that it was not customary. So I'm going to propose for the board that I'm drafting with Dan a parliamentary procedure for board and Plan Commission meetings, formalizing the agenda items of the meetings and recognizing the right for residents to have comments on the agenda items as they're called. This will probably take, we may have a review of it at the first meeting in December. Dan and I are drafting it. We'll run it by Eric and get Eric's comments, and then we'll bring it up for board discussion and action. But I do think it's something that's needs to be addressed in a more formal nature. So with that, we'll move on to 6D, the retreat preliminary plat.
Sure. The retreat preliminary plat, the Paquette property off of Norms Road, off of Elmhurst, at the Plan Commission meeting last Tuesday, The Plan Commission approved a preliminary plat for the retreat, which is an 8-lot subdivision on the Paquette property. John Spheris is the developer. The neighbors were there, so we just wanted to let everybody know about that.
Okay, there is no unfinished business, so we'll move to new business. Item 8A, discussion and possible action on a recommendation from the Plan Commission to approve an application from Al Hubner at N28W29721 Oakwood Grove Road for a certified survey map combining multiple parcels in a pending roadway vacation into 2 lots. Is there any need? Okay.
I'll just give you a brief review of this. This is, if you recall, a month ago, the board approved the vacation of an unnamed road that's to the east of Oakwood Grove Road. One of the conditions was that Mr. Hubner had to combine a number of lots. He actually owns, I think it was 6 or 7 lots, and then basically some of those are just old lots that were just combined by tax key numbers, and some were separated, small little 60 by 60 foot lots. But the resulting, this CSM basically is the result of that. So basically they got rid of all the extraneous lines and the lines that go through some of the homes and the buildings, got rid of the small lots, basically combined the vacated right-of-way into one of the lots. So basically out of all that, we end up with 2 lots. There's 2 houses existing, 1 on each lot, and there's access to Oakwood Grove Road from each lot. So then it's conforming that way. And the only other thing that's just of note is that there is an easement. It's gonna be a private easement from Oakwood Grove Road to the east, and that'll be for the French property owners. They own a house there. They do have access all the way up to Franciscan Road, so they have their own access, but this would be they're not landlocked, but this would be a secondary access for them, and that's an agreement between Mr. Hobner and the Frenches. We're not involved in that, other than I gave them a sample of our driveway agreement. That's not really an issue for us. So the Plan Commission recommended approval of the CSM as presented. They made the technical corrections on it, so I think they're ready to go, subject to county comments being addressed.
Okay. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to address any aspect of this agenda item?
We're the people asking for it, so if there are any questions that come up, we would happy to try to answer them.
Okay, well, with that, we can go into, are there any questions for the applicant? This has been we've been
Right.
working on this for quite a while. So with that, I'll close the public comment section and we'll move into board discussion.
No, like you said, Mr. Chairman, we've just been talking about this for quite some time.
Yeah.
We had a public hearing a couple weeks ago about this. I'll make a motion to approve the application by Al Hubner for the certified survey map combining multiple parcels and pending roadway vacation into 2 lots.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor on the board say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Thank you. I'm sure you understand the process we went through, but it takes time. It just takes time. Moving on to item 8B, discussion and possible action on a recommendation from the Plan Commission to approve an exception to the maximum cul-de-sac length required of 1,000 feet required in Chapter 18.06 sub 1 sub D3 of the Town Code.
Okay, this has to do with the retreat subdivision being proposed. This is located east of Norms Road, which is east of County Highway G, Elmhurst Road. And we have, in Section 18, we have a general requirement that cul-de-sacs are not generally supposed to be more than 1,000 feet. The history on that 1,000 feet is unknown, but general planning principles would say some of it is if there was an accident or something happened You know, you didn't want that length to be too long where you couldn't take a fire hose and string it out 1,000 feet to get to a fire, let's just say. Or if the road was blocked by a tree, you know, the emergency services people could walk that 1,000 feet, so it wasn't so far. In this particular subdivision, the cul-de-sacs, there's actually, once you get onto the property, it splits, and there's two cul-de-sacs. One to the east that potentially could be extended in the future, but that's the Shanestadt sisters' property, and it may be a long time, we don't know, but there's no plans to go to the east, there's no development plans, obviously. And then there's a cul-de-sac to the north that just ends to the north, but those cul-de-sacs are about, the one to the north, I believe, is like 2,100, and the one to the east is about 2,300 feet. So it's substantially longer than that 1,000 foot that's in our code. There is a provision in the code that allows exceptions to the code, but it has to go through the Plan Commission and then to the board as well for approval. The preliminary plan was given to Mark Hoppy from the fire department. His comments back were he didn't have any issues with the layout or the access from that. So he didn't comment on the length of the cul-de-sac at all. As far as I'm concerned, you know, the concern would be is if something happened, if an accident happened at Elmhurst and Norms Road and that intersection was blocked, then people wouldn't be able to get in, emergency vehicles wouldn't be able to get in. That would be the concern. Now, I'm kind of a person that likes connected roads because of the access issue, because of neighborhoods. So that's kind of my bent on it is I like connected roads. This is a little bit challenging because there isn't an easy access close by to another road. You know, the closest road would be Highway 18, and you'd have to swing that way to the south or swing it back to the north and then to the west to get back onto Elmhurst, which there's a lot of private property to go through to make that happen. It's not a real logical way to go. So the Plan Commission considered it, and they made a recommendation to allow the 1,000 foot, to allow the waiver or exception to the 1,000 foot requirement. So now it's in your hands.
Any questions for Tim? Anybody thank you, Tim. Anybody in the audience care to address this item? If not, I'll close the public discussion and we'll move on to board discussion. Is there anything you want to address?
The Plan Commission weighed this heavily. It's a unique property. It's not unique to have allowed this exception in the town. There's precedent, so the Plan Commission unanimously, or it wasn't unanimous, but there was one vote against it to allow the exception for the cul-de-sac. But I think we should allow it. I'll make a motion to approve the exception to the maximum cul-de-sac length requirement of 1,000 feet required in section 18.0 paren 1 paren D 3 of the town code for the retreat subdivision.
Second?
All right, I have a motion and a second to approve the request in item 8B for an exception to the 1,000 foot requirement of the town code and the cul-de-sac length. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Item 8C, discussion and possible action on the appointment of John Schroeder to the Lake Country Fire and Rescue Commission. Just as a background, the town is merging its fire department with Lake Country Fire and Rescue. As part of that merger, the merger agreement allows us to appoint 2 fire commissioners to represent the town at the Lake Country Fire and Rescue. We appointed Steve Michaels. He's currently serving as one of the town representatives, and the proposal before us is to appoint John Schroeder as the second representative. Hi, John. Go. You want to give us just a quick overview of yourself?
Absolutely, thank you, and I'm honored to be considered for the appointment to the Fire Commission. I retired about 4 years ago from a 33-year-long career in the Army Reserve, and Army National Guard. During that time, I had the honor of commanding troops at the company, battery, battalion, and brigade level, anywhere from 100 to 1,700 soldiers. That's really the crux of my experience in personnel administration. I supervised all the full-time soldiers assigned to National Guard units here in the Wisconsin. In my final assignment as the Chief of Staff of the Wisconsin Army National Guard, I was the senior active duty officer for nearly 1,100 full-time soldiers. Prior to that assignment as the Wisconsin National Guard Director of Manpower and Personnel, I was responsible for the administrative policy for 2,000 Army soldiers and Air Force airmen, and I managed the General Officer Career Program for the state of Wisconsin. I was also the lead negotiator for the government for 2 union contract negotiations and numerous union grievances. I've personally participated in or led probably 30 to 35 hiring boards throughout my career. The most recent was last January when I sat on the board to select the state chairman of the Employer Support of the Guard and Reserve Program, which is an office of the Secretary of Defense that operates here in Wisconsin. I currently serve as the state training director for the Wisconsin Employer Support of the Guard and Reserve Program, and I own and operate my own small business, Screen Clean, Dry Ice Blasting. So that's my background in personnel management that I think I bring to the board, or to the commission, excuse me.
And just as an overnote, the commission is primarily involved in management personnel issues of the fire department. There's another, there's a budget, there's a board for the fire department that we get to elect or appoint 2 representatives to, and the board of the fire department involves the budget and financial issues, capital expenditures and things like that. The commission involves the personnel and the employment issues. So I think his background was very, any questions for? Okay, thank you, sir. Anybody in the audience care to make any comment?
Say thanks for your service.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, John. Okay, with that, I'll close the public comment section. I think we're very fortunate.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, thank you for his service. He's got a very fine resume. He's definitely qualified. I move that we appoint John Schroeder to the Lake Country Fire and Rescue Commission.
A second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, John. You're appointed.
Thank you.
Dan Green will get with you and go through the formalities of it. I don't know when the next meeting is. Dan will let you know.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Okay, great. Thank you. Moving on to item D, 8D, discussion and possible action on the approval of a contract for police patrol services with Waukesha County Sheriff's Department from 2021 to 2025. Dan, you want to address it, or is there someone in the audience that wants to address it?
I can address it. It's just our basic contract, what we have been doing over the past, or this year, with our 14-hour police service. The budget reflects the cost of the contract, and no other major changes that we've seen over the last contract that we've signed. So I don't really have anything to add based on what's in your packet, unless the representative here wants to speak to it, but.
No.
Yeah, I think it's pretty
It's
cut
the
and
same,
dry.
it's not the sheriff's contract I was hoping we'd present, but it's the same one we've had for the last year, 2 years, I believe. So, anybody have comments from the audience? If not, we'll close the public comment section, move to board discussion. I think we all should be comfortable with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the only comment is, it's disappointing that it's only 14 hours. I think we really need
Right.
additional dedicated police service in the town. For those in the audience, before the Thomas property issue, the only reason this room was really filled up prior to that was people were complaining about lack of speed enforcement on places like Maple Avenue, Imperial, Highway C, North Shore Drive. I mean, there is a speeding issue in the town, and, with only 14 hours of dedicated service, we just don't have the resources to fully utilize and, enforce the speed limits. So I think that's why we need more.
Well, another comment is, what was a key discussion at the Plan Commission for the retreat preliminary, or the retreat proposal, was traffic. All the residents that came they all mentioned the traffic concerns and the increased traffic that the development, it's only 8 families. Even 8 families and the increased traffic of that going out onto the road, they wanted more police protection. So I think it's a major issue throughout the town, and hopefully we can address it somehow going forward.
But with that comment, I would move that we approve the contract for the police patrol services with Waukesha County Sheriff from 2021 to 2025.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the County Sheriff's Department contract from 2021 to 2025. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Discussion and possible action on the approval of the 2021 budget. We just went through that. I'm not sure anything's necessary. Anybody in the audience have any additional comments? If not, I'll close that discussion and move to board discussion, which I think we've talked it through.
Mm-hmm.
So, chair's open to a motion.
It's lean, it's frugal, I mean, there's not a lot of wiggle room, so, I mean, we're doing
Don't
the best we
hiccup.
can with the resources that we have, with the state levy limits, you know, I mean, we're definitely, you know, not, you know, I think we're being good stewards with the town's money, so I move that we approve the 2021 budget as presented.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the 2021 town budget as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Item 8F, discussion and possible action on appointing Steve Michaels to serve as town board supervisor for the remainder of the late Supervisor Van Horn's term, ending April 19th, 2022. Mr. Michaels, thank you for coming up. If you'd give us a little overview of yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. My name's Steve Michaels, and I've lived in the area and community most of my life. I grew up in the city of Delafield, right near Kurt's Steakhouse in Valley Road Place subdivision. My wife grew up on Nagawaki Lake in the city of Delafield as well, and we both went to Kettle Moraine High School. We have 3 kids. Our son Arden is 7, our son Calvin is 5, and our daughter Marion is I think 4 months now. So we're very blessed to raise our family in this community. I went to Marquette University Law School and then began working in Madison, and my wife was still working in Milwaukee. And we had this distance between we were driving, and God bless it, Delafield's right in the middle. So we got to move right to our hometown and don't ever intend to leave. We're members at Elmbrook Lake Country Church. My kids attend Heartland North Elementary in the Arrowhead School District, and they both play hockey. I'm a hockey player as well, and I play in the Waukesha County Men's League. And I think at one time I played with about half the fire department between Dean Richards and Tom Kinley on my team. So I went to the University of Minnesota, and after law school, I worked for Governor Walker at the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, and then the Department of Administration. At both places, I was charged with a variety of tasks that certainly intersect with the work here that the town board does, whether it be development issues, community issues, or certainly open government issues. At the Department of Administration, I oversaw HR, I oversaw Capitol Police, as well as the Annexation Department, which is certainly that comes up on a local level quite frequently, and any sort of population estimates that come out, which, as you all know, certainly affect the levies and taxes on an annual basis. I've always had a passion for governments. I feel called to serve my local community, and I would be honored to do so in whatever capacity you all see fit. I'm happy to answer any questions you have about myself or my experience.
How many years have you been in the town for residence?
I've been in town for 8 years. I moved here in 2011. I live at N26W30 Maple Avenue. So if you can picture where the old fire department is, I'm about 8 houses down on the non-lake side. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for Mr. Michaels? Okay, thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Any comments from the floor, from the audience? Yes, Ms. Gutenkus.
Kathy Gutenkunst, East Glen Cove Road. With all respect to Mr. Michaels, he sounds like a lovely person. Mr. Van Horn served this town for 25 years. And without being crass, we haven't even buried him yet. And I think this is a little prompt, a little fast. And I would just ask, out of respect for Mr. Van Horn and his legacy here, that we just take a deep breath. We have time to fill his spot. And I would ask that you just remember that as you move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else care to make a comment? Yes, Claire.
Claire Dundon, North 11 West 28910 Northview Road. This is something that the town board has not experienced before. I'm not only speaking about this town board, the board that I served on, and the boards that I knew in the past 40 years. This is something, it's an anomaly. We don't necessarily lose a board member. It's an elected position. And Mr. Michaels, again, I will iterate what Ms. Gutenkund said. With respect to you, you sound, really, really well qualified. But I don't even think that the majority of our population, our electorate, even knows that Mr. Van Horn has left us and that his seat is open. So I would suggest that this appointment be delayed, but there be publicity out there that this will be happening, that there is an opening on the board, that, we're looking to fill it, and we want to fill it quickly, but it doesn't need to be this precipitous. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Duncan. Anyone else care to comment? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment section and open it to board discussion.
I agree with both the speakers. It's quite fast. I know I created part of this problem, being that I'm going to be leaving the board in another month. And I know we have to have at least a quorum to continue town business, so I will take some of the blame on the rush on this. But I do think we have to just take a little bit of a pause, take a breath. Nothing against you, sir. Just see if anyone else wants to be appointed, or just steps up, do something more than just right away. I think we just need to wait a little bit.
Okay, let me make a comment. I don't see it as being fast. And I don't think if Pete was here, he'd see it as being fast. And it's not, there is precedent for it. She is precedent for it. We had a town supervisor resign in, I believe it was late September, early October of last year, 2019. And it was effective at the end of the meeting. He resigned. 2 weeks later, at the very next opportunity, Christy Dianopoulos was appointed to the board through the board's action to serve out the remaining term of Chris Smith's term. So there is precedent for it.
I think you're not being fair to Pete. I mean, Pete dedicated 20 years of his life onto this board.
Well, but Pete also wanted what's best in the best interest of the town, and the town is in the middle of one of its most critical aspects in its history, and that is the merger of the fire department in with Lake Country Fire and Rescue. Pete was the representative for the fire department. As you can see on the next item, and there's a meeting tomorrow for the fire department, and the next item is calling forward there's a meeting for the fire department, and the next item on the agenda is to appoint Mr. Michaels as the town's representative for the fire department on the fire board. I think we're very fortunate as a municipality to get someone with Mr. Michaels' demographics. I mean, he's young. He'll be young to be on the board. He has 3 children in the community. He'll be here for who knows how many of decades. He's the future of the town. The decisions this town board make will impact him and his family more than they will impact anybody up on at this board right now. And I think he's a qualified candidate and willing to serve. And I would like to see the process go forward. I don't think Pete would want to wait. I don't think Pete would say hold things up in honor of Pete Van Horn. He'd say, move forward and do what's in the best interest of the town. And I honestly believe that having someone of the quality and character of Steve Michaels is in the best interest of this town on long-term prospect.
Yeah, with all due respect to Supervisor Van Horn, unfortunately, Mr. Cooley, with you leaving, you know,
I guess I know, I said I caused this
I mean,
problem.
the town still needs to
Agreed.
operate, and it's a lot to put on the other three members of the board to try to continue, you know, I mean, we're in a pandemic. You know, I mean, I just don't, unfortunately, don't think that, you know, I mean, this is the most risky thing I do every week, is come to a town board meeting. So, I mean, I think the less meetings we have, the better, unfortunately, until we get this whole COVID-19 coronavirus thing under control. You know, I mean, Pete was a great supervisor. He put a lot of time. He was, you know, he was a mentor. I mean, I really, you know, and I struggle with this. But I think in order for the town to continue doing our business, I think we need to unfortunately fill this position this evening, to just make sure that the town can continue to meet and do what it needs to do. So I'll make a motion to appoint Steve Michaels to serve on the town board for the remainder of late Supervisor Van Horn's term expiring April 19th, 2022.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second to appoint Mr. Michaels to serve on the town board of the town of Delafield for the remainder of Supervisors Pete Van Horn's term expiring April 19th, 2022. And now, it's unusual, but the town clerk actually gets the vote in this, according to Wisconsin statute. So why don't I call for a roll call vote? Mr. Cooley.
Nay.
Mr. Krennic.
Aye.
I vote aye. Ms. Deanopoulos.
Aye.
Aye. And Mr. Green.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 4-1. Mr. Michaels, for the good or the bad, you're currently going to be a town supervisor, and we appreciate your service. With that behind us, then the next item is relevant. Item 8G, discussion and possible action on the appointment of Steve Michaels to the Lake Country Fire and Rescue Board with a term expiring April 30th, 2021. Yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot of discussion. This is, again, part of the merger of the Delafield Fire Department with the Lake Country Fire and Rescue Fire Department. Again, we get two appointments. Anthony Guthius is currently serving as one appointment. We're proposing under this agenda item to appoint Steve Michaels to serve as the second appointment in replacement of the late Supervisor Pete Van Horn. And the first meeting would be tomorrow night. So,
Move to appoint Steve Michaels to the Lake Country Fire and Rescue Board with a term expiring April 30th, 2021.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to put Mr. Michaels on the Lake Country Fire and Rescue Board to represent the town of Delafield with a term expiring April 30th, 2021. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. With that, we'll move on to announcements and planning items. There's a Plan Commission meeting on Tuesday, December 8th at 6 p.m., which hopefully will be a short meeting, and it is followed immediately by the town board meeting. So hopefully that will be a short meeting too. Any other comments or?
I just have to mention that the recount will not be occurring in Waukesha County. So it was moved forward with Dane County and Milwaukee County, but we will not be having a recount here. So
Good.
Oh, good, that saves us.
it's good news for me. And I'll leave it at that, yeah.
You're just getting lazy. So, you don't have any, you have what, one election next year?
Well, two, maybe.
Two, okay. You had 4 this year. Okay, with that done, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
A motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out. Appreciate your input. Thanks, Ed.